It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home, home, home. It feels like home.
When I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a singer. I would get up in the morning, go to school, come home, and start practicing from the minute that I got home until 10 o'clock at night. My mom had to tell me every night, "That's enough singing." I practiced in front of a mirror, and by the time I was 9, I got to sing the national anthem for the Phoenix Suns versus the Lakers, and it was televised all over the country. We began to get calls from everywhere asking me to come sing, come on tour, come and record, and it was just really a dream for me. I loved singing, I loved music, and by the time I got to be 12, we had relocated to California to pursue it even more seriously. It was at that point that I realized the industry was not the same as just getting to sing and perform for people. They wanted to tell you what to sing and what to wear and how to look and how to do your hair, and I became very disillusioned with the music industry. I turned down several major label deals in my teens because they wanted me to be someone that I wasn't. And I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted. I just knew that I didn't want someone telling me who I was. One day while I was living in LA, I was hanging out with some girlfriends, and we were hanging out by a pool. And one of the girls had a cassette tape of a band that she'd gotten. We all started listening to the cassette, and I was intrigued with the music. It was so different to my ear than anything I had ever heard. And so we decided that weekend we were going to go and watch them live at this little dive bar named Raji's. It was such a dive. As soon as they started singing, I fell head over heels in absolute infatuation for the lead singer. I followed their band around relentlessly for years after that. He was so attractive, and my girlfriend was dating their drummer, so I got to be around their house all the time because she was dating him, and I longed to get to know the lead singer better. Eventually, we finally started dating, and I realized he was way cooler than just his stage persona. Not only was he an awesome singer and songwriter, but also he knew how to fix things. He would fix my car if something broke on it. He would fix the dishwasher. He would take things apart that I thought couldn't be taken apart, computers and all kinds of things. And he could build. He could grow things in a garden. I mean, he was just such a jack of all trades. I was just so impressed with him. And so we got married, and we moved to his little hometown, which was, in my mind, a small town. Back in those days, we were coming from Hollywood, and I lived in Coldwater Canyon, and he lived in Van Nuys, and we had such busy Hollywood-style lives that coming out to Redlands, California, which is kind of between LA and Palm Springs, seemed like just a little bitty town. We bought an 1893 farmhouse, and it was very run down. When we got it, the paint was peeling, the yard was dead. It had been an elderly woman living in it, and she couldn't take care of it, so everything, it was just in dire need of some loving attention, which we were more than happy to give to it. We started work on painting the outside because the wood was so dry, we thought the house wouldn't even hold up if it didn't get a paint job, and we started to do fun things with the shingles, and I ended up painting it 10 different colors. My husband said, "Go ahead, you can pick everything," and I picked green and red and cream, and it was just such a blast. Back then our motto was, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, and I think you can see by the pictures we learned how to do that pretty well. My in-laws had a gorgeous Victorian house about a mile away, and their house was filled with the most just stunning American antiques and fine art and beautiful rugs, and the grounds were like Disneyland. It was all manicured and gorgeous, and I longed to make our house something like that. And because we didn't have any money, we put our own stamp of creativity on every single room and every corner. It was a dream come true. But one day in 2016, my husband's job had become really grueling for him, and we decided that we would push on some other doors and see where we should go. Nothing in California was opening up for him in teaching. And so we started to push on some doors all over the country, really. We decided Texas or Oklahoma, somewhere. And finally I said, your whole family, your dad's whole family lives in Virginia. Why don't you call the Virginia family and see if they know of anything? And he called his aunt, and within a month of even starting to push on that door and thinking that we might leave our house of 20 years, the house that we had become a family in, and the house that we'd built our dreams in, we decided that we would leave and take a cross-country leap of faith. We felt like God was saying, come to the land that I will show you. Neither of us had ever set foot in North Carolina. It was just totally unknown to us. As I scoured properties on Realtor.com, I found this real estate agent who was in North Carolina, and she walked me through every step of the way, and she found us this beautiful solid brick house on the lake. And it had 12-foot ceilings and granite countertops and all the pull-out drawers in the kitchen, and it had tons of cabinets. And she said, you'll never fill all these cabinets. And I thought, you have no idea how much I bake. And I did. I filled every cabinet and then some. But we absolutely loved that house, and we spent every spare moment in the summer just exploring the lake and kneeboarding and water skiing and just enjoying the sunshine there. It was such a dream life. It was what I had always hoped for. After 5 wonder-filled years on the lake, 2020 dawned. And that January, my word of the year was treasures in darkness. It's more of a phrase, but I wanted to remind myself that no matter what circumstances I'm going through in life, God is worthy. He is always right there with me, and He wouldn't be leading me in these paths that are dark and treacherous if He didn't have something that He wanted to teach me there, something that He needed to show me that I couldn't find any other way. So that was why it was treasures in darkness. And so I resolved that no matter what came my way, I would trust in the Lord, knowing that He had something good, no matter the darkness and no matter how long the darkness lasted. Little could I have known what 2020 had in store for me, had in store for all of us. The whole world was affected. With everything shut down, my daughter and I decided to volunteer to bring school lunches to kids who probably otherwise would not have received any meals at all. It was a glimpse into a life that I was so unfamiliar with. I had no idea that there were so many people living in that kind of struggle, that kind of poverty, and it changed both Mary and me. We just tried our best to share Jesus with them, to help them, to come alongside them, and it was remarkable how their lives were affected. When I would go to the grocery store, many of the things that we normally bought, and we never bought a lot of extraneous things. We've always been on a single income, and so it wasn't like we were buying outlandishly expensive food, but even stuff like flour and sugar and the basic ingredients to make basic things were out of stock. It was alarming. I mean, it was eerie walking down the shelves and finding that there were empty places in all the generic brands, which was all I ever bought. And even a lot of the name brands were missing too. And so as I began to describe the situation at the store to my husband, and we began to see other world events, we both started to have this nagging feeling that maybe it was time for us to leave the lake house, that maybe something was coming, and that we needed to get our family to higher ground. No one wanted to leave our lovely lake house, no one at all, least of all me. This had been a house that literally had every kind of shrub I had ever dreamed of. It had hydrangeas and azaleas and camellias. And I said when we moved in, if only it had a dogwood like your Aunt Janet's, it would be absolutely perfect. And then one spring morning, Paul had brought me a dogwood flower, and I said, where did you get this? And he said, the tree that's right on the other side of the driveway. And I just thought how good God is. All the little details He had worked out for me when we moved across the country. He just wanted to delight me. And so I knew that He was moving us yet again, and that He would do what He had done in the past. And so I just had to trust and wait that what He was going to bring us to was going to be good. I called my very dear friend Beth Christian again and said, could you help us find a little farmhouse? We're looking for something with some land. And at that point in time, all of the properties were going above their asking price. And it was very difficult to find anything that had property and that had enough bedrooms for all of us. But finally, this little farmhouse opened up, and it was very, very small, but we knew we could make it work. And when we drove up the driveway, my husband and I both said, this feels like home. There was something of a bidding war for this house. It got many, many offers on its first day, and one of them was even $50,000 over the asking price. But the guy that we bought it from said, His mom had been the worship leader at their church for 70 years, and he knew that she would have wanted it to go to a family like ours. We had led worship at our church for many years, and my son immediately sat down and started playing her piano, and the owner said he just knew this was who his mom would have wanted to have the house. So he gave it to us even though we didn't come in over the asking price. He just liked who we were. And I thought, what a brilliant act of God. And Stacy, the owner, even let us come in early. Mary and I got to scrape the ceilings. Mary and I had never done anything like that, but John was busy back at our house packing and getting things ready for us to move. And so Mary and I were scraping, and then at some point we got in early. Even before we owned the house, Stacy let us come in and refinish all the floors. It was absolutely miraculous what we were able to do. And so by the time we moved in on December 9th of 2021, we had refinished the floors and the ceilings, and we needed to still paint the whole house. But we had all of our stuff in, and it was an absolute miracle, truly. The land was just magnificent. The little boys were running all over the land, every part of it. It had a beautiful pond, and they wanted to go down and go fishing. And sure enough, the pond was stocked with fish. And they began to just run all over the huge hills on the side, and it was just unimaginably perfect for our family. I knew that this would be a spot that God would train up our boys and even ourselves to be the kind of family that He wanted in this season for us. There was no doubt in our minds that God had led us to this farm. So hey, I'm Tanya. If you've made it this far in the video, I hope you'll stick with us a little longer as we continue to fill and subdue this 15-acre farm. We're going to be doing a whole lot more projects on our videos. We're going to be redoing our basement and making some more living space down there on the cheap. And we'll be redoing our greenhouse, trying to grow some food in there. We'll have some wonderful recipes for you all. And I hope you'll stick with us as we try and just make the most of this life and carve out some joy along the way. It is our goal to be able to live a life that's worthy of the gospel, and here when we get to see Jesus face to face, well done, my good and faithful servant. So join us on our journey, and I hope you will like, subscribe, and share.